Welcome to the show. I'm James.
I'm David.
I'm Alpha Riley.
And today we are discussing everything, everywhere, all at once. We'll laugh. We'll argue. We might get a little too into it, but at the end of the day, they're just movies.
Spoiler alert!
Am I right? A recent 5-star review said, I know nothing about movies, but I love this podcast. You and me both, friendo. Thanks for the review.
I mean, if you're gonna love one,
Choose us.
choose the podcast instead of all the different movies.
Clearly the better content.
Next week, we're going to cover Severance. If you haven't seen it yet, you should. It's on Apple TV+.
How many episodes in are you, David?
0. Someone started.
Oh my
Oh,
god.
I wasn't home all weekend. So.
It's binge-worthy.
Yeah, I'm not too worried.
I think there's only 9 episodes.
I'm genuinely very excited to watch it, so it's like, I'll get through it.
Directed by Ben Stiller. First thing he's directed that he's not in.
Honestly, I was sad that I had to stop watching each episode. I would wanted to play the next one, but it was bedtime.
Sad bedtime. All right, today it's this movie from directors Daniels. Again,
Not the Daniels.
it's Daniels.
Yeah.
Everything, everywhere, all at once.
They're just a couple of Daniels.
David, hit me up with your rating out of 10.
Everything, everywhere, all at once is outrageously brilliant in every possible way and scratches more space-time itches than I thought a single work of art could. Stop what you're doing. Change whatever plans you thought you had tonight and go see this movie. 9.8 out of 10.
And then
9.8,
come back and
wow.
put this podcast back on.
Yes, also do that.
9.8. You loved it.
This movie is everything I want out of a movie. And
know what?
more.
Your favorite movie in one of our top episodes ever is Scott Pilgrim.
Yeah.
And I was watching this and I was like, this has kind of Scott Pilgrim
Oh my gosh.
vibes.
When Jamie Lee Curtis is flying through the air with her knee towards Michelle Yeoh, I was like, yeah, Scott Pilgrim. But better.
Riley?
Different.
My slogan is, this movie is everything that a movie should be. They're I sit down to watch this movie, and at the end of it, I was just like, yeah, that's if that could be every movie, I mean, then the standards would change. But I loved it. I'm giving it 8.75 out of 10 because it didn't I didn't cry really. There was one part where I was kind of almost a little bit of moisture came in my eyes, and I loved Swiss Army Man in that movie. Really hit me emotionally. And I think
This
one
was more cry-worthy than Swiss Army Man?
No,
No,
I'm
Swiss
saying
Army
the
Man.
opposite. Swiss Army
No,
Man.
no. Sorry, that's what I meant to say, but that's weird to me.
Because I think it was a bit more of a focused narrative with there was only 2 real characters, and it was kind of I could go deeper into that relationship. But this one, it's almost I'm getting blasted in the face with so much stimuli all the time that I almost there's not enough time to sink into something.
Sarah cried, I believe.
this make sense?
So did Jake.
I cried too.
Anyways, I loved it.
I thought you were going to bawl your eyes out because if I find out that Sarah or Jake cried, then I'm like, oh, Riley's going to cry.
I
You're
think
a
it's just-
crier.
I think this is there's so much emotion in it that it's almost I can't get too deep in one emotion. It was kind of well, I'm sad, and then I'm happy, and then I'm laughing, and then I'm fearful, and then blah, 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 blah. And
Now
it's
I'm a rock.
yeah, exactly. I mean, I loved it. It's just it's not the type of movie that I would give a 9. It's an 8.75. It's really up there. I love it. I feel now I have to justify the fact that I didn't give it a 9.8, even though I love this movie. Go, James.
Daniels have solidified their position as one of the most original and creative forces in Hollywood. With editing and sound design to make Edgar Wright blush, and more dildos than a Wachowski series, Everything Everywhere is Matrix 4 we all deserved. Way
Yeah.
better than Matrix 4.
Jeez Louise.
Yeah, just
It
a
could
little
have
bit.
been the Matrix 4.
There was a few times. Well, there's actually a Matrix music cue in this.
Yeah, I heard that.
Yeah, with that.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's called a waterphone, that instrument. I learned that from
Man.
another podcast.
What's your score?
My score is 8.5 out of 10.
8.5.
It's a great movie.
Why are you trying to make me feel like my rating isn't high
I
enough?
wasn't.
I felt that from you. I felt that vibe.
That's your problem, pal. You're
You're right.
projecting that on me.
You're right about that.
I don't see what you guys didn't like about
I just thought there's a couple times. I think it could shave 10 minutes out. I was like, okay, another montage of fists. I was like, let's just get to the climax. I thought they could have closed it out a little sooner.
I think that a recurring theme about me is that I'm looking for kind of a specific experience in most movies. And I feel like this one, it was so artful and so amazing that I can appreciate it, but it didn't make me feel the thing that I'm really looking to feel, which is a deep emotional moment. And I think I could see emotion happening on the screen, but I didn't feel it as much. Partially because it's kind of exhausting to watch this movie. It's feels like work almost.
this is my brain though. That's how
Right.
this is exactly what I think like in a movie.
Beat you up in a dildo with
100%. Trying my hardest to jump onto a butt plug.
Yeah, and I loved it. I loved all that stuff. It's like I don't think there was one moment where I was like, "Oh, I don't know about that." Like it's not that I'm like there were moments in the movie where I didn't enjoy myself. I enjoyed myself the entire time.
Mm-hmm.
I think I'm just like I noticed the absence of a feeling that I normally feel when, like, I'm, at the end of Lord of the Rings.
You succumb to the everything bagel.
Nothing matters.
I mean, the everything bagel was all over up in my face. It was a lot to deal with.
I did find that I felt a lot in different places, like when she first connects with the Kung Fu verse, and she's like, "I saw what my life looked like without you, and it was beautiful." And like he shook, and she has that tear. Like I was like, "Oh, that's deep emotion." Or when he's talking about how, like, that feeling where you think everything's just like a little bit off, like your hair's not falling right, like just the days are off.
Yeah.
And he's like, and you just ask yourself, like, and she's like, how do I get back to where I was? And like those moments, those little lines gave me like goosebumps.
That was the moment I realized this was a pandemic movie.
Totally.
Anyways, we'll talk way more about this movie after this message from our sponsor, Secret Lab. They sponsor today's video. They make chairs that are engineered to keep you comfortable for long hours at work and play. Their Titan Evo 2022 series chair offers 4-way lumbar support. It comes with a magnetic memory foam head pillow. What? Are you serious? And it's offered in different upholsteries if you have like different rooms that they're in.
What?
Like hybrid leatherette. What? Soft weave fabric. And Napa leather, the official leather of the UFC. It's not. With up to 5-year extended warranty and 49-day return policy, you're covered if anything goes wrong. So learn more about Secret Lab at lmg.gg/secretlabtjm. We're also supported by Manscaped, the goddamn best in men's below-the-belt grooming. Manscaped offers precision-engineered tools for your family jewels, including their 4th-generation trimmer, the Lawnmower 4.0. Its new wireless charging system removes the need to bring cables with you if you're a minimalist, and it's compatible with most Qi charging pads. The Lawnmower 4.0 includes ceramic blades with skin-safe tech, so you can just manhandle your own junk with this thing and you're safe.
Wow.
It's cordless. It's waterproof. It gets 90 minutes of use on a full charge. Head to manscaped.com/TJM20 and get 20% off and free shipping today. And finally, thanks to Storyblocks for sponsoring today's video. You ever needed a quick clip for a video, but you didn't have the capacity to make it yourself because you don't own a drone, or it's raining where you live? Storyblocks helps you bring your stories to life without sacrifice due to time, budget, or resource. There's over 1 million royalty-free assets for you to choose from, including 4K HD footage, Adobe templates, music, images, and a wide array of diverse and inclusive content. There are subscriptions for every budget, so you can choose the plan that works for you. From their unlimited all-access plan that gives you unlimited all-access video and audio downloads to enterprise licensing to your entire company. All those poor souls typing at keyboards. I was gonna say monkeys. 100 monkeys that work for you, typing on they can all use assets at the same time. We use Storyblocks here at Linus Tech Tips, and our stuff is great, so yours can be too. Take your videos to the next level by checking out Storyblocks today at storyblocks.com/TJM. TJM.
Yeah, you can't really, there's not really a way.
Well, I don't really know the reference. I only know because you do it.
They're just films. Stop. Moving on. I feel like, okay, before I get into the synopsis, I feel like I just need to clarify that I did feel emotion in this movie. I just don't want people in the comments being like, "Oh, I can't believe Riley didn't feel anything." Well, I felt the emotion. It's just that it was a lot of different pools of sort of shallow emotions.
Just say you were tired that day or something.
Rather than, I was tired afterwards.
See, but I hear you. I feel like the first 2/3 of the movie, it's like, wow, where are we going? What's happening? But then that final fight up the stairs brought it all home for me, man.
Yeah.
Like,
If it didn't make you cry, you are a robot.
But I think I was just laughing more than I was feeling emotions. Like, because all the little things that she's doing, like everything's happening so fast. She encounters a new person, she goes into a multiverse, she finds what she needs to do, she fixes them, and then it's on to the next one. And each thing that happens is kind of funny. So I'm not like crying. I'm laughing, and I'm joyous.
I think what the movie does so well is for me, it straddled the line of outrageous and heartfelt. Like even like the hot dog universe, when she's going in there and she's like,
that was the most heartfelt universe.
it was so beautiful when she it's like, oh, how do you live in this universe? You don't have hands. And then she's playing the song with her feet. And then you realize like, oh, she's caressing them with her feet. And it's like kind of this sweet moment of using her feet. And it felt really sincere in a weird way. Where, like, it could have been totally stupid, but it was like, oh, no. Like, this is real. And then that's how she gets out of that situation. Or the next person, it's the guy who like talked about, oh, you smell like my wife's perfume, but she turns the grenade into the perfume, sprays him, and he's like, he has a moment of like happiness.
Yeah.
He's like, that's what, and like those moments were silly, but for me, the heart came through.
Oh, yeah.
And it didn't feel like the silliness was undercutting it at all. Like I felt full emotion on those things.
Yeah, I don't want to say that silliness was undercutting it. It was just different.
I think you're saying it's just you're oscillating between the feelings so such a frequency that it's not enough time for you to like fully unleash.
Right. I think when I give a movie a 9 or a 9.5 or something, it's like there's a scene near the end, at least one, where, you know, it lets you sit with this one emotion, and instead of the movie showing you all these crazy things that are happening at once, it's like there's implications, and then your mind is going to all these different places, and you're getting deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper into one emotion
yourself, because you've been given processing time.
Yeah, instead of kind of like having all of these different emotions kind of playing at you at the same time. I'm not saying that one's bad or the other. It's just that's just for me.
Read the synopsis.
Okay.
Yeah, you're right.
Here's what happens. Evelyn Wang runs a struggling laundromat with her husband Waymond with a W. I don't know whether...
Love that name.
And tensions are high. They're being audited by the IRS. Waymond is trying to give Evelyn divorce papers. Her father Gong Gong has just arrived from China. And Evelyn's daughter Joy wants her to accept her girlfriend, Becky. But that's all pushed into the background when, during a meeting with the IRS inspector Deirdre, Waymond's body is taken over by an alternate universe version of himself called Alpha Waymond. He tells Evelyn about his world's verse-jumping technology, which allows people to access the skills, memories, and body of their parallel universe counterparts. And Evelyn must learn to use it, as she is the only one who can stop Jobu Tapaki, an entity who experiences all universes at once and can verse-jump and manipulate matter at will. Evelyn is given verse-jumping tech to fight Jobu's minions, including Deirdre, while discovering her other lives, where she made different choices and flourished as a kung fu master and a movie star. But it's soon revealed that Jobu is actually Joy from the Alpha universe, and Alpha Evelyn created her by splintering her mind with excessive verse-jumping. Jobu then created a black hole-like everything bagel that could destroy the multiverse. Evelyn realizes the only way she can face Jobu is by splintering her own mind to gain the same powers. So she verse jumps repeatedly, learning that Jobu actually created the bagel to destroy herself and wants to share her fate with Evelyn. Because since with so many vast universes, nothing truly matters. Evelyn is nearly swayed to Jobu's cause, but then hears Waymond's calls to be kind and defeats Jobu's minions using her multiverse knowledge to help them rather than hurt them. Evelyn tells Jobu that she is not alone and would choose to be with her rather than anywhere in the multiverse. In alternate universes, Evelyn reconciles with Waymond and Joy, and Waymond convinces Deirdre to let them redo their taxes. In an epilogue, Becky is part of the family, and they return to the IRS building where Evelyn's attention is momentarily drawn to her alternate selves before she grounds herself back in her home universe. Whew. I didn't even, honestly, while writing the synopsis, I was just like, how do I fit all of it in there?
I thought about the task of you writing the synopsis yesterday on my drive home from the movie.
Yeah, I was like, do I mention the hot dog fingers universe? Do I mention the raccoon?
Raccoonie.
Raccoonie?
I love.
They set that up as like a Ratatouille kind of reference thing, but it made me think of Swiss Army Man.
Oh, interesting, kind of.
Yeah, there's sort of like a puppeteering thing going on there as well. Yeah, but it was...
I like, though, how the movie is so tight and well integrated where it'll set something up as a joke one time, but then it'll develop it into a point.
Right.
Like Raccoonie, it's like she's like trying to describe like how the other, like the verse jumping works and how these like Alpha Raymond is coming in and controlling people. And she's like, oh, it's like that movie with the raccoon. And they're like, Ratatouille?
Yeah.
She's like, no, Raccoon. Yeah.
It's such a great, oh, sorry.
But then it builds into like a thing where you start seeing that universe and you see, because she has to access the teppanyaki chef, but then she looks over and she sees the guy. And then you come back later and it's like the raccoon is there. And then it keeps paying off. And every time we go back, I'm like, oh, fine. This is the time I'm going to get tired of it. But somehow they keep like pushing it further, and it's so good.
Yeah,
it's real interdimensional cable, Rick and Morty vibes.
Yes,
totally,
definitely some Rick and Morty vibes here, especially with like the fact that the villain sort of is, goes through the same thing that Rick goes through in whatever season that is, where he's like, with so many universes, how can anything matter? He like loses his real family and he just goes into another multiverse and they're all there again. And so I thought that was kind of an interesting idea that that's what the villain like struggles with when you are aware of all of this chaos and you are aware of like a million versions of yourself, nothing can matter. But at the same time, what I love about the movie's plot is that nothing matters also turns into sort of the answer, because it's like nothing matters, including your guilt about the bad things that you've done. And so like that's kind of one of the things holding Joy back in the end, because she's like, you know, how can I ever be normal again? Look at what everything I've done. Like, I just need to end it. Like, I need to like, and Evelyn's like, no, nothing matters, including, you know, all that shit you did. So
big fan. I love movies where the point, it's like they accentuate how much nothing matters. Then like this movie, I like the talk of the scale and like how science has brought us to this huge scale where like we realize how small we are and how little we matter. But then it brings it home for me where it's like, no, we don't matter, but love does. And like it hit home for me, and I think it never felt cheesy in the way that I was afraid it would.
Yeah.
It's always you have to tread carefully on that where like nothing matters except love. Love wins. But it never felt cheap to me. It landed.
Yeah. Like I think that when it kind of shifted from Evelyn kind of almost losing herself to being drawn back by Waymond, I did have that feeling where I was like, this feels kind of cheap, because it's just like, oh no, don't do that, be nice.
Yeah.
But I think because it was paired with her seeing her husband in a new light, like they had their marriage is struggling, they're struggling with like running their business, and like their daughter is going off.
And she sees him as a silly person.
Yeah, she's like, oh, I'm a failure, you're a failure, we're all like, everything sucks. And then she sees that even though everything sucks, even though nothing matters, he is here deciding to keep trying, deciding to be kind, deciding to ask Deirdre for another chance.
This is exactly it.
Yeah.
To me, it was all about it being a choice. Like,
yeah.
To me, it came out as like negativity is a choice you make, and he's choosing. You have to choose happiness.
Right.
And the whole movie is a fight against a life without joy. Literally, the kid's name is Joy.
Yeah.
Joy is going to go away unless you
I didn't even
choose
make that
happiness.
See, I would say that like negativity isn't necessarily a choice. It's like the happiness is like the negativity will happen. You don't have to like choose.
Well, you fall into the negativity.
Yeah, you fall into negativity if you don't choose to go for the kindness or go for the love. I don't know.
Can we
The
talk
joy.
about Waymond for a second? Because like short
Why is
round, how did you get so good at acting?
Yeah, real quick.
He was amazing.
Where's he from?
So
That's Short Round from Indiana Jones and Data from the Goonies. He's the kid.
Whoa.
Yeah, and he hasn't acted for 20 years.
Yeah.
So I listened
And
to
he's
a
like
panel.
a kung fu expert?
I guess because it seems like he was doing most of the fighting with that fanny pack.
Was he not?
It seemed like it was him. He was amazing.
I don't know if it was actually him or a stunt double, but
You see his face for a lot of it. Maybe it's
Right.
just a similar
Yeah.
enough looking.
I mean,
stunt
I know
double.
Michelle Yeoh had a stunt double, so I don't
Yeah,
know.
for sure she did.
But yeah, I don't want to say his name wrong, but I'm going to. Huy Quan or whatever. Yeah. Apparently he did that like child actor thing, and I listened to a panel that where the cast was on, and he was saying that like after the Goonies and Indiana Jones, he just couldn't get auditions even because like there weren't a ton of opportunities for, you know, young Asian American people or actors or whatever. And so he just kind of like he took a step back. He went to film school and he did a bunch of stuff behind the camera. But then when he said when he saw Crazy Rich Asians in 2018, he was like, all right, now it's time. I want to get back in this. This is ridiculous. I want to be part of this and blah, blah, blah. So then and then apparently 2 weeks after that, he got a call, like he got hooked up with an agent, and then the Daniels called him and they're like, we want you in this.
He was perfect for this.
Yeah.
Because he's like, when he first starts talking, you're like, oh, he's like sweet and simple. Like, oh, he's not.
His high voice.
His
and
high
his soft
voice. Yeah, you're like, oh, he exemplifies the silliness perfectly, but he has that warmth. And the first time he snaps into Alpha Waymond, you're like, oh. And I found it so interesting, and I was immediately drawn
When
into
was that? Was it the elevator?
Well, no, you see a moment of him on
right.
CCTV doing like kind of like moves. But I never, like, this is a small thing on the acting. I think his performance overall is excellent. But one small thing that I really appreciated was I was never confused which Waymond I was watching. It was always very clear.
Yeah.
Alpha, not like, it was, he did an excellent
Because they
job.
had visual cues, like he's pulling his glasses down, but they didn't rely on them. Like he looks over his glasses to signal that he's changed, but then he could just take his glasses off, and we're still looking at Alpha Waymond, and we still know that.
Yeah, I love the scene where they're fighting Deirdre for the first time.
I know someone with that name, and I thought it was Deirdre.
Deirdre,
Or she goes by Deirdre.
They
say it multiple
I'm sure
ways
I'm saying
in this
it
movie.
wrong. I don't.
Oh, okay.
I'm picturing the letters in my head and saying it how it seems like I should say it. Well, how do you say it?
Say it the French. Say it the French way. The way
Deirdre?
that, hey, David, say it the way that French people say September.
Septembre.
Deirdre. Is it Gaelic? What is it? French?
I don't think it's French.
That's a cool name.
I
though.
think it might be Gaelic.
Sounds like it.
Deirdre.
Anyways,
Deirdre.
she's also amazing. The first time she has the donut on her head and she comes and kills Evelyn, I was
Right.
like shook. I was
Yeah,
shook.
yeah.
And I like the way she holds her body in this movie, like so ugly. Like
We get a close-up shot of her sucking in her gut because she's like slouching and just like she's got like super strength. But I was gonna say that scene where she's attacking them in the cubicles and stuff, and Alpha Wayman gets stuck behind the cabinet, and then he's like, "Oh, Evelyn, you're not the Evelyn I'm looking for. I'm sorry," or whatever. And he ducks down, and she's like, "Alpha Wayman?" And he pops up, and he's like, "Oh, Evelyn, what's going on?" And you can only see his eyes, and so I wanted to say, because of the acting, like I think that it's so clear. Just you can only see his eyes, and it's so clear that it's regular Wayman now,
Well, you
and
hear
not
his
Alpha
voice
Wayman.
too.
Yeah, but still, yeah. I mean, his voice is so high. It's crazy. It's all the way up here. But it's funny because I think that like Alpha Wayman is like a little bit deeper than regular Wayman, but they're both his voices are both still up here. It's crazy. Yeah.
But yeah, I shout out to their stunt teams too, because like I don't know how much Wayman did in that fanny pack fight, but you see his face for quite a bit of it. But that was,
I mean, maybe he did, but
I felt like this
he hasn't
movie-
done acting for 20 years, so who knows?
From the first frame of this movie, I was like, oh, this is gonna be a good movie, but it kept like getting like better and better and better.
Yeah.
And that fight where he has the fanny pack was definitely a moment where I was like, oh, this movie's going here.
When
Like
that
we're
was going
doing
on, I was
this?
like, this fight is sick.
It's so
like,
good.
It's like better than Star Wars fights. Like
easily.
It was awesome.
Like this movie, like not only succeeds as like a surrealist like examination of meaning in life, it's an awesome martial arts movie. It's fucking phenomenal. Like the worst fight in this movie is still like one of the best fights in another movie.
I also, as long as we're doing shout out to the editor Paul Rogers. Like I mentioned Edgar Wright in the off the top here, and because it's similar, you get a lot of shots that are kind of cut with sound. You get a lot of like insert kind of B-roll shots, close-ups on like a gut you're being sucked in, or a fist hitting a face or whatever. Like, but man, it's just so frenetic. And the one fact I know about the Daniels is that they start off in music videos.
Yes.
And because that's the one thing I know about them, everything else I see from them, I relate back to that one thing. So like, are the fights good because they did music videos? It's definitely a visual movie because of that background.
Yeah. Let's get back to the characters a little bit. Sorry, I kind of detracted us a little bit, but let's talk about Joy.
The main character, maybe?
Yeah, Evelyn. Let's talk about Evelyn. You're right.
That's one of the main strengths of this movie is it's like The Matrix.
He did do it. He's got a martial arts background.
Okay.
Yeah.
He does. Okay,
Hell
sorry.
yeah.
Go ahead.
So this could have just been Keanu Reeves or something. Like, whoa.
Whoa, other
Like
universes?
he's mixed race, but I guess where I'm getting at, it could have just been like another white guy movie.
Right.
But instead they're like, wouldn't it
Right.
be interesting if it was a middle-aged Chinese lady?
Yeah.
A middle-aged Chinese American laundromat owner. That's who revolves around the story.
I love that about this movie. I love that we're getting movies now where, you know, it's Asian people not because it's like an Asian movie, but just because it's a movie and it happens to star an Asian family. Like, cool. Like, it's not a big deal, you know? Like, I think that's really what we want to get to is the state of the industry where it's not like, oh, it has to be white people. It has to be, you know, whatever. It's just like, it's a movie and it happens to have these people in it.
Well, and I think they do such a good job making the like deeper struggles really universal struggles. Like you can really easily identify when she finds out that the reason why she's the chosen one is because she's the worst version.
that was
of herself.
hilarious. You were the worst one.
Yeah.
But wait a second,
There's nowhere to
Riley.
go but up.
Yeah.
Hold on, I want to like double click on what Riley was just saying about they just happen to be Asian, because I don't really think that's quite true, because it's not interchangeable. If you had just changed all the characters for a different ethnicity, like suddenly they're all Hispanic or suddenly they're all Polish, it would be a completely different movie. A lot of this movie has to do with pressure from parents. It has to do with expectations from traditional family members, like the grandparent from, you know, back home, from mother country, not being accepting of your girlfriend.
I think I agree, but I'm not trying to say that like it's just interchangeable. Like you could just swap in Filipino people and it'd be totally like whatever different. But I'm just saying that the aesthetic of it is of a immigrant family, and then there's things that come along with that or whatever. But like traditional values and like family structures and like struggling with like the weight of past decisions and like your current state of failure and
It's all
stuff.
relatable.
These are all very universal things, and you can like slot those into different cultures, and then it would change the movie. But at its core, I'm just saying that like this is not like fundamentally it has to be Asians to tell this story.
Well, it's really universal. I think
that just goes to
knowledge.
show that humans, no matter where they're from, are kind of more the same than they are different.
Right. I mean, it's nice to have this representation, and I think that like especially hearing Key talk in that panel I was listening to about how it was specifically hard for him to keep going in the industry because there was little opportunities for Asian American actors, and now he gets to kind of like return to the scene with like this. I think we've got quite a few movies in recent years that are like opportunities for Asian Americans to have greater representation in Hollywood movies and stuff, and I think it's a marker of the progress that we're making, which is great.
Did you guys see if it's explicitly Chinese American or is it kind of like broader Asian experience? Because I left the theater being like, oh, it's Chinese, but I'm like, oh, was there any markers of them being specifically Chinese? Because
I mean, their name is Wang, which I think is Chinese.
I think maybe the New Year's festival they were
oh
celebrating.
yeah, that's right, Lunar New Year's.
So yeah, correct us if we're wrong, but I don't know. I mean,
Someone tell us.
Michelle
Fan
Yeoh
service?
is
She's
Chinese American.
Malaysian Chinese, I thought.
Oh, I mean, yeah. I mean,
John was claiming that she was Malaysian.
Malaysian is sort of like
They'll take it, whatever they can get. She's ours. She's one of ours.
Speaking of good characters, the one character I was worried I wouldn't connect with was Joy at the beginning, because I'm like, oh, she's just like the disappointing daughter who doesn't like her mom. But as soon as she comes up in that elevator in the Elvis outfit, walking the pig with a cigarette in her mouth, I was like, this might be my favorite character in the whole fucking movie.
She was so lucky, all the costumes.
But go ahead.
Well, go ahead. You go.
Well, I was just gonna say every character in this movie gets an opportunity to like really spread their acting wings a little bit. I mean, we got like every character has alternate versions of themselves, and so we see. I mean, with Joy, we see the most. I think that she's like constantly shifting between all these crazy costumes and stuff. Although she's mostly playing the same character. You got kind of like normal Joy, who's like pretending to be just the normal daughter, and then you have like multiverse spanning Jobu Tataki. But every character got the opportunity to really play around with it. Jamie Lee Curtis.
Oh, she's so funny.
She was so great. Like her like overbearing. I think Jamie Lee Curtis particularly played really well into this style that the Daniels have of just like I think it seems very much informed by their music video background, where they're not scared to just kind of go all the way with it. Like, yeah, we're going to have a close-up shot of her gut sucking in. We're going to like do this crazy like circle transition with like effects and then boom, boom, boom. It's almost like the effects. Did you guys feel like the effects seem sort of like amateur sometimes?
No.
I don't mean amateur as in bad, but I mean like
seeable.
Yeah, it's like, oh, I can kind of see how they did this, or like you can kind of see like the edges of the finished product a little bit. It's I don't know, but it works. It works because the movie is so like gung ho, and it's just like, okay, we're going, boom, 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 keep up. So it's like it's okay if you can kind of see the seams a little bit.
I hear what you're saying. I think for me it's less the seams and more you can see the like what's the word? One sec. Fuck. The like homemadeness of it. So you can
like with a raccoon.
Yeah.
That was like
right.
That was not a CG raccoon.
That's
that
what
was
I'm
an
saying.
animatronic raccoon.
But it's so charming.
Yeah, it's charming. There's no way you're looking at that raccoon and be like, that could be a real raccoon. It could not be a real raccoon. It's 100% a puppet, but you don't care because everything's happening so fast and it's hilarious.
And it's way better than if it was a realistic CG raccoon.
Yeah.
It's so much cuter and better.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of the music video vibe of it. Like you wouldn't expect a music video to go all out and have like a photorealistic looking CGI raccoon. You'd expect them to be like there's a sort of like homemade quality that is charming.
Totally.
I love it.
I love the effects in this movie. To me, I walked out of it, I'm like, this must have been a really expensive movie. It was only $25 million.
Wow, they did a lot.
Right.
They did a lot with the $25 million. And you can look back and be like, oh, you can see that the sets are pretty limited. Like a lot of it takes place inside that office building and like a lot of the same multiverse
But
and
at
stuff.
the same time, I just thought wow, this must have been a lot of work because they have so many of those like match frame montages where it's like Evelyn's face is in the center of the frame and the background and her hairstyle and makeup keeps changing as if like those photos where you're like, I grew a beard and took a picture for one day for the last 7 years. It's like that, but I'm like, how do they? Maybe they did it on the cheap with stock footage and stuff like that, but it just looked like they had to shoot. All right, now we're in Tokyo getting this one shot, and now we're in Egypt getting this one shot.
I mean,
how
I doubt
much
that they
work
were,
was all of this?
I don't think they were flying around, but I agree that especially as the movie went on, there was more and more of them that would happen in each montage, and they were happening faster.
Yeah.
So the final one, it's like there's hundreds and hundreds of these close-ups that are happening, and they're like, I'm sure there might be duplicates, and I'm really excited for someone to slow it down and like break down what it is.
Yeah.
And they take the time to tell jokes in it. Like one time when she's screaming and it's cutting through all her different faces screaming, it cuts to the urn screaming because you've seen Waymond hold the urn that's her. And then
I didn't see that one.
I didn't notice that either.
Oh, it's so funny.
But so normally I say that the movie has to be. I'm gonna rewatch this movie, even though I normally don't appreciate like having to rewatch a movie. But this one is just like, it's literally that dense.
Totally.
Like I want to go back and find the things that I missed because there's so much in there. It's crazy.
So much. But it's still such a thrill the first time.
Yeah.
Like it's like 100% a great watch.
It's just so inventive. Like when they cut to the rocks, and then we're just the whole theater is just silent, just like reading these dialogue boxes. Oh man!
And I think that's what I'm talking about when I'm like, this is what a movie should be. Like a movie should have these moments where you're just like, whoa, what are we doing? And you're having this collective moment with everyone else in the theater where everyone is like, okay, it's a quiet part, so everyone has to be quiet, and we're just all reading. Like it's just it's an unusual experience.
The best like the tell for me was I was sitting beside, I guess like a young. I didn't really get a look at her, but I think she was like probably 20-somethings to 30-somethings Asian woman.
Yeah.
And she throughout the movie I could tell like the whole audience was howling and laughing, but I could tell she was like uncomfortable by what she was seeing, but she was still laughing. Like during the scenes where they were trying to jump on the butt plugs, she was like, "This is what is she saying? Like to something to the effect of like, this is so vulgar, this is so gross," but she was still laughing. So it was perfect. She like went to see the movie because of this like family drama that she's gonna relate to.
Yeah.
But then they totally dovetailed that and brought her along with the way along the ride in a way that didn't ever alienate her.
Right.
And kind of just expanded what she like. I didn't know I would think that was funny.
Yeah.
I didn't know like this photorealistic blood on a dildo would be like acceptable to me. But it totally worked. They did it, and maybe that's because there's two of them. They can take disparate things and put them together. I don't know, but amazing.
I feel like that's an important thing. Like you were just saying, there's this family drama that probably drew in some people to see this, and I think a big reason why this movie works so well is because despite having like so many disparate things happening and so much like crazy throw stimuli at your face, like so much is happening, but at the core of it, it's got this family drama, and that's what it's really about. It's not actually about, hey, can we like push boundaries as much as we can and like, oh, we want people to be grossed out. Like that wasn't their intention. Like there are kind of gross, funny things that happen in the movie, but the underpinning to it is this family drama. And we what's her name? Evelyn? Evelyn is on screen almost the entire movie.
Yeah.
Like there's very, very few shots where she's not there. And we are seeing the entire thing happen through her eyes and feeling her connection to her family and like her pain and like trying to like fix things. I like that. Having that through line there is so necessary because there's so many movies that I've seen that I don't like that are like this in the way of having like all this crazy stimuli.
Totally.
Well, they were restrained because in that butt plug falling on scene, they pixelated the guy.
Which is smart. I thought that was smart because like they could have pushed the joke by having like a dangling wiener, but it just felt better. Like it felt sillier almost.
It did feel better.
Because it was like restrained because they I think they knew like we're going to bring in people from here. We're going to bring them all the way up to here, but we can't go that far because then we're going to lose them. And it could have been the fact that they just didn't want an R rating or something like that, but I don't think that's what it was.
I can't believe that sequence, like the amount of deep gut laughing it got from me because it's stupid. Like it's in order to get the powers from another universe inside their brain, they have to fucking butt slam onto a butt plug.
Right.
And like the second they look at it and he pulls his pants down, like you're like, no, come on. And then the dude comes running, He's
holding his legs open as he's midair, like.
But it just fucking works. It's
Yeah, I want to talk about the jumping pad thing because I think that's a big reason why it worked, because they ground the weirdness. Also, not only is there this family story, but they ground the weirdness in this real in-universe lore, like
Totally.
detailed mechanic
it's brilliant.
where they have to do it in order to access those powers.
And it's like a sci-fi homage thing. It's almost parody in a way. It's like an Inception where it's like, we need the kick. We need to
yeah.
startle your body so you wake up. So they
right.
No.
they
To explain for the viewers, I mean, if you haven't seen this movie, what the
Please
hell
go
are
see
you
it.
doing? Go
Please
see
go
it.
see it.
But if you haven't seen it, it's a mechanic where in order to get to a universe they want to get to, where like there's a kung fu master version of yourself or something, you need to slingshot yourself there by going to a more closer universe where your character does something weird. It does something
statistically improbable.
yes. So the characters end up doing these like super weird things in order to launch themselves to another version of themselves that they need.
The first one is he has a paper cut in between his knuckles.
Yeah.
That was
Yes.
hilarious.
Amazing and visceral and
Everyone in the theater was like body horroring out about that. Ooh, that wasn't the first one though.
Oh,
the first one was he tells her in the note, change your shoes to the wrong feet.
Oh, you're right.
Right.
You're right.
But we just don't know at
Yeah,
that point.
You're right.
Right. Did she ever change the shoes back?
The rest of the movie.
That's something I want to go back and see. Is like, is she wearing the wrong shoes?
I actually have a question on this topic is, can everybody occupy or possess or take the skills from multiple other versions of themselves at once? Or can only she can do that?
Well, I think that's
I mean, like, if you're like, oh, I need kung fu skills right now. I'm going to jump into the kung fu person brain. I'm going to occupy those skills. Are you limited to just that? And then when you want, like, supreme driving skills, you need to ditch those kung
seems
fu
like-
skills and then occupy like one at a time.
Right. It seems like once she's achieved Jobu Tupaki level, then she can just like pull from any universe
Right,
at will
but I think
without.
not most
But
people.
Wayman, though,
Most people
Alpha
can't do
Wayman, he occupies the universe that she's in just so he can be there beside her. But then he also has these mad kung fu skills.
But I think that's from his universe because he's been training.
As Alpha Wayman, he has the kung fu
I think
skills.
that it's like if you went deep into the lore, I'm
Wait,
guessing
no.
people.
because he did something weird. He did something weird
Oh, yeah.
before he
You're
did.
right.
He's
the kung
in
fu
that
thing.
universe, and then he does the chapstick thing to get the kung fu powers.
It seems like he's someone who's had training, so
Yeah.
he can be in one universe while accessing skills from yet another universe that is not his home universe. But he still has to do the jumping pad thing. Whereas when you get to Jobu Tupaki level, you can just access everything all at once.
Everywhere.
Everywhere, everything, everyone. I love the idea that going on autopilot is like synonymous with you kind of like being in another universe. Like I love the idea that Evelyn is constantly daydreaming and everyone's like, hey, what are you doing? Like come back. And she's like, huh? And I love the idea that when people are doing that, they're actually kind of like stepping into another universe for a second.
That's what I'm doing.
That's what I do every time James talks.
You don't want to know what happens over there.
Like
I'm on another podcast.
glimpse into it. It's just hedonism.
It's just raccoons on a podcast. They're just raccoons.
Yeah, so I thought that was a really cool idea.
When we went to the rock scene, someone in the audience was like, they're rocking out. I think they were like on mushrooms or something. I heard some murmurings at the end of the show of like, yeah, I was like kind of only half engaged throughout. Yeah, anyways.
Oh, you got to be
unrelated.
fully engaged. This is a fully engaged
I'm excited to watch
movie.
this movie enhanced. I wasn't enhanced when I watched
Right.
it, but I think it'll be a good.
That's good you had the dry run. Yeah.
I plan on going to see this again in theaters. I am blown away.
Yeah.
This is like exactly the kind of movie I dream of watching. This is just like I'm so happy.
Oh man, what did you guys think of the part where Wayman's explaining to her, like, so it's after Deirdre has attacked them and they're kind of like running through the building and they've like lost her for a second, and Wayman's explanation of what's going on involves like, oh, you feel as if things are bad, our institutions are crumbling, no one trusts anyone anymore. And I was also at that time I was like, whoa, this is like some pandemic vibes right now.
Yeah.
And then he was like, our mission is we have to get back to normalcy. Like we have to get back to the way things were before. Did that make you guys think of anything? Like Like, did that hit
Make
you as a
America great
thematic?
again? Is that what you're saying?
Oh boy.
No, that's not what I'm trying to say. I'm just trying to, like,
No,
that
but
was
I
just
think-
like an
yeah.
interesting point that seemed very, very, like, it kind of took me out of the movie for a second because I was like, whoa, this seems like very, very specific, like, we're saying something about the real world right now.
Yeah, they're saying
Politically.
over the course of one presidency, the republic is crumbling, and now
Right.
America has no preeminence on the world stage.
But I
and
don't-
everyone's like, what happened to the leader country? They suck now. What do
But
we
I
do?
don't think that was just Trump that did that. Like, things were going bad before that.
Sure, just throwing gasoline on a fire.
It's true. It's true.
And then the pandemic and everything, and then I think there's a lot of elements of our society today where we're like, what happened to trust in institutions,
Right.
like news media? What happened to trusting experts like scientists?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like, why is Alex Jones just as credible as
Yeah.
someone else? Like,
people factionalizing into like, we're over here and they're over here and they're the evil people and we're the good people and blah blah blah. But that's what I thought was interesting, was that Wayman's solution is to, hey, just be kind.
Yeah.
Like, these people that you are fighting that have their own motivations and their own like beliefs that may be based on reality or not based on reality. They're just people, and we're all just people. And the solution is not to fight and defeat the enemy. The solution is to be kind and like unite in something.
but that was in service of destroying this villain, which was chaos. Like, chaos is taking over the world. We need to stop it, and then that's
Right.
his way of stopping
And I
it.
think Alpha Wayman said, well, go ahead.
Well, I don't think that it's necessarily chaos is at the end is the villain. I think chaos is the gateway that leads to this despair. And I think that's really what it is this despair that Joy has due to recognizing that it is all chaos.
Right.
Like the final scenes when she, like when she jumps off the canyon as a rock, you're like, oh, it's like a sort of a metaphor for suicide, or like a visual of suicide. Like
Yeah. She's trying to kill
lost,
herself.
Yeah, she's lost hope. She's trying to erase herself.
Yeah.
And so it's less about, to me, at the end, what I liked is that it turned it from like, oh, just like nothing is worth anything, into just despair and
Right.
that depression.
Yeah. I think that I loved that the solution to that, because it's like, okay, we understand that there's a multiverse. We understand that everything's chaotic and maybe nothing matters. But the solution to that is to decide to be kind, decide to have this sort of like normalcy and, be close to the people you care about and show them that you care about them. And like that decision to, despite all this chaos, to like create some sort of order in the midst of that, I thought that was beautiful.
Well, because it comes back to the personal story, which is how Evelyn contributes to Joy's despair in just being kind of a bitch.
Mm-hmm. Well, and Alpha Evelyn created Jobu Tataki by pushing her too hard,
hard.
Mm-hmm.
And that messed her up.
Well, I like the way the movie kind of examines the central themes through the kind of the three main characters it's examining, like Joy, Waymond, and herself.
Mm-hmm.
And each one kind of gives you a different dimension of this idea. And man, like Evelyn is just she has such a journey, and I don't know, I just felt so connected with her
Right.
all throughout, and like these breakthroughs and these moments. And I love the breakthrough she has with Joy when she's like, oh, this is the answer. I have to bring her and Becky to my dad and show that I accept her. But
Right.
like, that's not it. That's not it. Like, that's not what the point was. And she has to go one step further
Right.
and really grow that one extra bit. I'm like, oh, because the movie could have gotten there. The movie could have gotten to be like, nice, now that she accepts her daughter, that's the win. But the movie just has so much more underneath that it's trying to point out. And
So what was that extra bit? I don't know if I fully appreciated it.
I think I agree with David, where I felt that like when she brought Becky and Joy to Gong Gong, it kind of seemed like she's like, okay, I can make everything fine. All we need to do is just, if you want me to recognize Becky, I'll just recognize Becky, and then like it's an easy fix. But then Joy runs back out to the car, and I think that scene is great because it's like it calls us back to the original time. Earlier in the movie when Joy runs away and she like follows her out to the car.
And she gets so close.
She gets so close, but she says, wait, Joy, I have to tell you something. Wait, don't go. And Joy turns around and she's like, eat healthier. You're getting fat.
Yeah.
and it's like, no, that's the wrong thing. And then we see the fulfillment of that later when she's like, no, I'm not going to. Like that's what her traditional family sort of instincts tell her to say. And that is definitely something in Asian families or in Chinese families, at least. Like my Chinese friends have told you, like that's how you show like love to people.
Well,
is like being upfront with them about that.
Even the movie acknowledges that, and I think it does a brilliant job of setting it up. Where Becky and Joy are talking about it, and Becky's like, "I know, like if she says I'm fat and I should lose weight, that means she cares."
Right.
And so it's set up. Then it's like, oh, you see Evelyn trying, but like clearly that's not what Joy needs in this moment.
Right.
But then at the end, it sort of pays off again when Evelyn goes to Becky and is like, your hair sucks, get a haircut.
Which is cool because like
Yeah.
it shows that she's retaining that part of herself.
Right.
Totally.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's definitely a part of that, I don't have that. I didn't have that experience in my upbringing. It was like if my parents said that
You're
to me, it'd be like
special.
abusive. But I think that like it's cool getting like a window into that culture where it's like the fact that Becky is in the family now is like emphasized by that. It's like, oh, we're gonna be upfront with you. We're gonna be honest.
Yeah,
Yeah.
It's funny. This movie does really feel like Scott Pilgrim, like especially all the fights. But that final fight, I can almost see as she's going up the stairs, the like score counter, like she like fights the people, and like the different love.
You can almost hear the points meter going up. Yeah,
and then like even the fact that there's like her 3 family members that she has to beat, like they're like the bosses, and you can I can see the score going up, and I love that.
Yeah, I just feel I feel like this movie is these guys are better than Edgar Wright ever could be.
What's interesting? When
It's just like there's
I
similar
had that
styles.
kind of adversarial, combative kind of approach to it at first as well. But then I thought, well, if they're doing something so similar to him, and we look back 25 years in the future, back to this time, will we see it as more of a movement? Like, oh yeah, there were certain filmmakers who did this thing,
Right.
rather than being like, yeah, you're just better at it than you.
It is interesting. I mean, like, is this a genre? Like, what is this like frenetic, crazy universe reality
it's
bending?
TikTok the movie. The pacing of this movie, man.
But I mean, Scott Pilgrim came out in what, like
2010.
Yeah, it was a long time ago. Like,
I don't think Scott Pilgrim was like that. I mean, this one specifically was so relentless in the pacing.
Yeah.
They were explaining a new element of how it worked, like at all times.
All times.
Yeah.
Until that's why I say I did kind of in the last 20 minutes. I was kind of like, okay, here's another montage of the background changing behind her. Like I kind of get it now. Let's wrap it up. But at least for the first like 3/4 of the movie, it was just like new information, a new change.
I hear you because like I think that the movie is very mentally exhausting, but I also think that because it's doing new things, I just felt like I could never disengage. I was just so thrilled, and I haven't been thrilled watching a movie, and I don't know how long.
Yeah, I want to be thrilled.
Yeah,
because I think that's what's so great about it is that we've seen so many action adventures by this point. It's like watching Sonic 2 last week.
Yeah.
It was like
it's fine.
Yeah, it's fine, I guess. I don't know. They had a big CGI fight and the robot fell down. Okay, cool. And in this one, it's just like, it makes movies new again. It makes you feel like a kid discovering that like such things are possible.
That's why I was saying that the most creative people in Hollywood are out. Even like the rock scene that there's nothing going on, or there's lots of going on, but it's silent. What I'm saying is, you still lean in and are engaged, even though it's quiet. It doesn't have to be an explosion.
I think when I said like it was exhausting to watch, I didn't mean that in like a negative way. I think that, I guess it's sort of a negative thing where it's just like, hey, just be aware going in. Bring snacks, get ready to expend some energy.
Your entire brain power for the whole 2 hours.
Yes, but like that's what I want. That's what I want out of a movie. I want me to be fully engaged. And if I'm, if I take points off, it's not because I wasn't fully engaged. It was because it was just engaging slightly different parts of my brain. Oh, man.
Shout out to that rock part.
I loved it. I think, the rock part was so good.
But it kind of like filled me with awe in the right way, where like it's a moment where like you have to pause and it's a breath in this relentless movie, and it says so many things, and when it comes back to it, and she's trying to show her like her motherly love, and she has she turns around, she has the googly eyes, and she's chasing her. And it's just so
Stop it.
It's so funny, but it feels so sweet, and I like the fact that they conveyed that with just rocks and text is wild.
Yeah.
Is wild.
But I think like during that moment, it's not only brilliant because like they have the courage just to like drop everything and do that for a second. It was also amazing because I I just recognized the mastery of these filmmakers to realize that the rest of the movie has a vibe, and now we're just gonna we're gonna give it to you, and take it away. Yeah. And now we're just it's just silence.
And in a way that characterizes joy.
Right.
I come here because I just feel like I have more space and things can slow down.
Yeah.
Like it served a purpose, and it has that premise paint where it's like, what's something that can only happen in this movie?
Right.
Well, this can only happen in this movie. I can't be watching Batman and suddenly Batman occupies a rock and him and Alfred are like at the top of a gorge. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
But in this one, you can.
Yeah.
It's interesting to see, this is a multiverse movie. Spider-Verse is a multiverse movie. The other Spider-Man movie is a multiverse movie. We're getting Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. I am a little concerned that we're gonna get all of these crazy mind-bending, reality shifting movies.
I have a multiverse screenplay.
Of course you do. I think that it's I'm a little concerned that we're gonna get multiverse fatigue.
Sure.
It could happen. At least in this case, it's not a multiverse that serves commercial purposes, where at least half of those were how do we get all of our properties into one movie?
Well, and in Spider-Verse felt like a total passion of love, but No Way Home is awesome, but you can just see they're like, oh, Into the Spider-Verse worked. How do we make that work for us?
So
it's also barely a multiverse movie. It's just we're bringing all these characters into it.
No Way Home?
Oh, No Way Home. No Way Home. Where
Yeah,
it's
I guess
we're
so.
bringing them into here and we're gonna deal with it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. They involve multiple universes, but they don't really
They don't
hop
travel.
between them. Yeah, but still, it's
a multiverse movie.
Yeah,
for sure.
yeah. I think that this one benefited from not being a Spider-Man movie, but I think I don't know. I'm not really that concerned because this movie was amazing, and
So original.
hopefully we don't get just a bunch of copycats. But
I think it sounds like it's time, Riley.
sure.
Nitpicks.
I don't have a single nitpick. I have a hit pick though.
Yeah,
Oh,
I have
give me a
hit
hit
picks.
pick.
I don't have.
I love
nitpicks.
how when they cut back to the Alpha universe, all the technology that they're using to jump and everything is just dollars for LEDs. They just they didn't give a
Maddie's
shit
sunglasses.
about it.
Yeah.
That's the
So
charm.
charming,
That's the
so
charm.
charming.
I've been struggling to describe this. It's just the music video vibe. I feel it in the censoring of the body parts in the dildo scene. I feel it with the cheap props type of thing.
But it also feels like their thing. There were a couple shots where I just thought, I'm having a weird feeling, and I think it's the recognition or it's the nostalgia of the feeling I had when I'm watching Swiss Army Man. I feel like it has the same production designers as well who had to make all those weird props with sticks out in the woods. Yeah. I feel like they worked on this too. They didn't have the same constraints, but some of that history came with them.
Totally.
I think some of why it works so well, having these sort of low budget looking props and stuff and effects and stuff, is because it's so quick and because everything else in the movie is so tight. The editing and the performances and the music and the comedy beats, everything is hitting so well that when it quickly cuts to this CRT computer screen and it looks like this stupid UI for a multiverse management software, you don't think about the fact that that's not what it would look like.
No.
You just
Because it's 10th down on a list.
Yeah.
I'm trying to comprehend what I'm looking at, just to keep a pace with the story.
Yeah.
And it is good exposition.
No, it's great. I mean, if it was another movie that took more time with those shots, and it's okay, we're gonna be in Alpha Universe now for 20 minutes, and not without jumping to the other ones, and you'd see all their sort of low indie movie budget
Gadgetry.
looking gadgetry, and you're just kind of this doesn't look real. But because it's so quick and boom, 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 and we're going to the next thing, you're just great, I love it.
It's also because this is kind of at its core a comedy that you're also just nah.
yeah.
Totally.
You're not oh, Christopher Nolan, how could you? That was not how it would work.
It is a comedy, but it's also just a super deep drama. And I think this is
Sci-fi
another trend.
dramedy.
This is yes, sure. I don't know.
Yeah.
This is another trend that's happening with movies that I love, which is just genre blending. It doesn't have to be a comedy. It doesn't have to be a drama. It doesn't have to be a sci-fi. It can be literally everything
All at once.
all at once.
Hey.
Nice.
I just wish more people would do it.
I want to get through my one nitpick,
Okay.
which is the repeated use of the term bagel. Kind of took me out of it a little bit.
Wait, why?
I don't know. It's it's silly, and it kind of happened at times where I felt that silliness undercut the awe of
Calling it a bagel?
and like it's I
They
love
never say the words
idea.
everything bagel.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah,
They
she
say,
has-
I put everything on a bagel. Is
Oh,
what she
yeah,
said.
yeah,
I was
yeah.
like, oh, like an everything bagel.
Yeah. But it's like such,
yeah.
that's why it's a nitpick. It's such a small thing. But that was the one time my brain was like, just like,
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
just
I
a few
mean,
too many times the word bagel.
All right.
the bagel just, I don't know what it is about
I don't know
bagels. It takes me out of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I loved the everything bagel. I thought that, like, the idea, I don't know, it's just such a stupid
It's
joke.
so stupid.
That also worked well with, like, the multiversal
Yeah.
themes. Like we have a thing in the real world called an everything bagel. It doesn't have everything on it. It just has a lot of stuff that you would consider putting on a bagel.
I liked it because they were describing it as like she made like something like a black hole. And then it comes up with this one of those complex, sexy sci-fi shapes, the torus, which is just shaped
Right.
like a bagel. So they just call it that.
Right.
Yeah, you're right. They
right.
could have called it the Eternal Taurus or whatever.
Wait, yeah, what is a torus?
It's a
It's a Ford.
Yeah, I see you have the definition.
It's a surface of in geometry, a torus is a surface of revolution generated by revolving a circle in three-dimensional space about an axis that is coplanar with the circle.
See, that's interesting. Because
Yeah.
that's not really a black hole. I don't know. I loved it. I feel like there was enough there for you to connect the threads to our real world and have it be like, oh, that's funny
Big
and
black
meaningful. And so it's whatever.
And like
it's an
the
everything
visual
bagel.
of it was excellent. Like I love the way that it pulls in the light in every
Yeah.
shot you see it. Like that white temple, stunning.
Oh yeah.
It's like such a cool visual.
Is that the same thing they used in Beyonce?
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
Black is King.
It looked great, but it didn't look that expensive. Like
No.
I think they know how to stretch $1.
Totally.
What's up with Jobu Tupaki? Is that a anagram?
Oh, it must be.
Oh, I thought there was some sort of explanation for that in the movie, but dang it, man.
I was Googling it and read it, and no post came up, so I don't know. Do you have any nitpicks or other picks, Riley? Mid picks?
I love when he first pulls her into the closet and he's explaining everything, and he's like, there could be nothing more important than like what I'm telling you right now, and she just like pushes his face away with her hand, and she's just like. She's like, very busy. No time to no time for this.
Yeah.
And then also at that point, he's like, it's he's telling her the name of the village, and he's just like, the Jobu Tapaki. And she's like, you're just making up sounds. I don't know. I mean, it's hard to have real hit picks because like they were literally
whole
happening
movie.
every second almost.
I have some. I love when they're escaping Deirdre and they get into the conference room and he's like, cream cheese. And he eats the cream cheese and he's like, he explains like, oh, cows in our universe are dead. Like we don't have any dairy. And then he takes half and half and he just drinks half and half, which is disgusting.
I love that.
Oh,
I
really?
love
Yeah,
that.
when I was
that
a
so
kid,
good.
when we used to go to restaurants, I didn't know what they were. I was like, oh, there's like those little milks on the table, and you'd be like waiting for your order, and I, just a hyper kid, be like, oh, just drink a couple little milks, and
Yeah.
still will do that today. Like,
Yeah.
I don't because now I understand that other adults are like, what the fuck are you doing? That's bad manners.
But no, but it's
I
like,
drank
yeah.
that stuff as a kid. Yeah, I mean, it's just better milk.
Yeah, it's just tastier.
richer.
Yeah.
Someone else, when I was a teenager, was like, what? Ew, that's for coffee. And they bet me like I couldn't drink a liter of it without puking.
Oh,
and
just
that
a
was
liter?
the easiest $5 I ever made.
Jeez. Louise.
Love that.
Yeah, I love when he's like cream cheese.
It's just a good little bit of world building.
Yeah.
It's a good throwaway joke, but it also serves a purpose. And I think the movie's really good at making sure there's not like single use things. Everything has a second or a third purpose.
Yeah.
Big hit pick is the opening shot, which is the shot of Joy, Evelyn, and Waymond laughing together in like kind of colored lights through the mirror and almost blackness of like the chaos of their house elsewhere. And then it's a push in on that. And then it tilts down as it turns to daylight. And it shows her in her chaos of her everyday mundane life. But it's a beautiful shot. It tracks over to her. And then you see Waymond in another mirror and they have their conversation. And it's like a great jump from like family time to her and her despair in this
Right.
situation.
Was that a flashback then, or what was that?
I'm not sure what it was, but it's like it kind of situates you. But what I think is really cool is with the context of the later movie, how they display all the other universes. It's all these like little circles.
Right.
And so that mirror all of a sudden is like, it's just a little universe. And
Yeah.
you're seeing a window into this this universe where they're happy.
But you don't know that yet.
But you don't know that yet.
I
And
love
it's
that
so
stuff.
fucking brilliant.
And it's showing, and because like when they transition between universes, often it's like a cracked glass thing too.
yeah. Oh, totally. Yeah.
Right.
So it's like a mirror that totally works.
Yeah.
Fucking
That's
brilliant.
Sick,
I love when filmmakers do that. It's like the beginning of The Prestige, and you're looking at all those top hats on the ground. You're like, that's gonna be a thing.
gonna be
But by the time I see it, I'm not gonna remember.
Yeah.
Second watch.
I have a hit pick.
Go for it.
The vagina hands.
That was my next one.
When was that?
When she's like, I want to show you.
Oh yeah,
show you, and they do the vagina.
you could tell who in the audience knew what that was.
Yeah.
There's some people were just like sitting there silently, and I was like,
Yeah.
as soon as she put the first person in her hands, I was like,
I was laughing. I was like, "Oh my god!" And Lauren was like, "What?"
Well, I thought the joke was
like,
going to
"You've
be
never done
like,
the vagina
I'm a
hands?"
lesbian, like, get over it. I thought that was the
Oh,
joke,
yeah,
but then
maybe.
it's like, no, she shows her the bagel. All right.
I just loved how it was just. I mean, because later they do a different hand thing and they open a
that
window.
was cool too.
And that one
Yeah.
actually summons the bagel,
Right.
which is interesting.
Um,
Shout out to the hot dog universe. We've talked about it briefly, but when they set up that musical that plays on the TV, and then in the hot dog universe,
yeah. Yo, when they're
I have
playing,
more questions.
when she's playing piano with her feet, I was like, those toes look kind of off. And then I thought, I know this is my theory. My theory is that it's the feet that are playing the piano are a prosthetic that a piano player actor's hands went into, and like they're like gloves that look like feet.
Maybe because
Like,
I did,
they're hitting these chords using like the pinky toe and stuff.
Yeah, I did notice that the toes. I'm not sure if all the notes were right, but at least some of them were right.
It looked convincing.
Yeah,
for
yeah.
feet.
Like I know that like at least two or out of like 3 or 4 of the notes were right for a few of the chords. I recognize that, but I'm not sure whether all, like I couldn't obviously verify whether they were all hitting the right ones.
Yeah.
I think it might have just been someone's feet.
I don't know, because
I think it
I
was-
wasn't going with the notes theory. I was just going by looking at the feet and how they looked. I'm like,
Some people
something's
have-
wrong about them. I think they're like, I mean, I'm not trying to body shame if they actually are someone's feet, but they just looked proportionally, looked like they could have been prosthetics.
I mean, those are some people have some prehensile toes.
That's true.
No one has prehensile toes.
What do you mean? They're
People that
your
have
toes
don't
are
have-
prehensile.
Agile. No, they're not. They have joints. Just like going like this is not.
I'm misusing
I'm
the word
I'm bending my
prehensile.
finger right now.
What does prehensile mean?
That's like an elephant trunk, or a snake's body, or a possum's
Capable
tail.
of grasping.
But it like wraps around. Like I don't think
It just means capable of grasping. It doesn't have to mean there's no joints.
the image that comes up beside it is a monkey's tail wrapped around a
yeah,
branch.
but there's because it's usually used to refer to like
it's
animals,
not used to refer to like your hand grabbing a branch.
chiefly of an animal's limb or tail.
Yeah.
Prehensile just means it's not static. It can move and grab stuff.
Elephants have prehensile dicks. Did you know that?
Okay, we need a
I didn't know that.
biologist.
I think turtles do
to reach out to us.
I have a
But
bio-minor.
get my you bastard. The hit pick about the hot dog universe I wanted to really bring up is that 2001 moment.
Yo,
When
hold
it's like
on.
the monk.
Yeah. That was hilarious. What were they doing again in that one?
It
It's like
was just from 2001.
it's
A Space
2001, but it's like
Odyssey.
the monkeys with the hot dog hands kill the regular
Yeah.
monkeys.
That was so good.
So funny.
Yo, I googled, are human hands prehensile? All, though to different degrees, possesses, I don't know, this
so
is weird,
dumb.
prehensile grasping hands, and all except humans prehensile feet. So we're talking specifically about toes here, and this little article on Britannica.com says humans don't have prehensile feet.
Yeah, I know. That's what I'm saying. Some people have some prehensile feet, like they could grab stuff with it. Like
That's
not
the
everybody.
opposite.
I'm saying maybe they found an exceptional human who has a greater than normal ability to control their toes.
Hey, on Wikipedia for hand, it says
Oh.
a hand is prehensile.
There you go.
Multi-fingered appendage located at the...
That's what I'm saying.
Another hit pick.
I just thought they had to bend more than that.
Another hit pick. We talked about the Matrix music cue, but the music cue for the Clair de Lune, which is like a very famous piano tune. If you don't know that name, I'm sure you've heard the song.
It's
Look
at the
it up.
ends of Ocean's 11.
Yeah, exactly. It's in a bunch of movies. But the payoff of it is happening when Deirdre's flying through the air with her knee and she's going to attack Evelyn. But it's been building up in these moments. It is kind of, the point is, it's when Evelyn connects with the Kung Fu verse and she gets all the power. But it's a beautiful song. But every time she's kind of connecting with the other universes, it gives you like a little hint of the music for the 10 minutes before. So it's building up towards it.
Oh, man.
So when the full musical cue happens, it's this huge release. And like, maybe not everyone noticed it, but I was like, oh, I recognize that. That's interesting. And when it happened, my gut was just like,
Yeah.
oh.
It's such a good moment. It's so amazing just because like it's like the juxtaposition of they're in a fight or flight situation, they're about to be killed by Deirdre's knee, and in that moment we have Evelyn kneel down and like give the most sincere I love you. And it's just like two completely different intense feelings, like genre bending.
Yeah.
So good.
And what's so good is that the I love you is set up as a joke. It's set up as like a totally silly thing, but then it fucking comes back later and you see a universe where she does love her so much. And like, it actually matters. And then in the main universe, she has to show Deirdre love and like hang out with her and like help her get through her grief. And it all fucking ties together. It's so good.
There's lots of good harmonies in this movie. I don't know if this is a nitpick or just a discomfort I had on the first watch, which is, you know, when you're trying to keep the mechanics of how it all works in your head while you're watching it, and some movies fail, like Tenet, and this
Yes.
and some movies are great at that, for like Inception. You're like, you might have to talk about it a little debrief after the film, but you pretty much get it. But in this movie, what I struggled with is Evelyn will go through and be kind of like meta and omniscient and omnipresent with Joy a lot, and they're just switching through and they're having conversations kind of like outside of reality, like when they go to beat rocks or whatever. But then it'll switch back to like an actual timeline. Now we're back to the timeline we saw at the beginning of the movie where we're talking to Grandpa and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And when it does that, I can kind of tell like, hey, Evelyn is her Evelyn self, and like Waymond is the Waymond from that universe. But then I never really know what Joy is. Like, is Joy back to being the Joy that has limited knowledge of like just this little drama they're having right now?
Well, I think that it's like, it's both. And I think that it's the same with Evelyn, where it's both. She is this like celestial being, but she is also just Evelyn. And it's these moments where love is breaking through to her. And Joy in that moment is like having Evelyn's love reach into the darkness and like reach her. And I think that's kind of the point. I hear what you're saying, because like you're like, oh, it's just humans again. Yeah. But it's not super clear. But I think for me, it was both.
Because at one point, remember when they're like, oh, you should kill Joy, because then the Joby Chipotle or whatever, Joby Chipotle, she can't occupy that joy in that universe, so you should give her like fewer resources, so you should kill this one. So that indicates that when we go back to, okay, screw the ethereal stuff, we're going back to an actual timeline, it would be just a regular human Joy who's not omniscient. But then it seems like omniscient, like Chipotle will kind of like poke her head in and I don't know.
Chipotle. How did we only just start calling her that now is my question.
I was so worried in that moment when she had the knife. I was like, I really hope the movie doesn't go that dark.
I didn't think she was going to.
But
it was real. Like the moment was real, because I was like, damn, like, can you imagine sitting there like with your parent coming up to you with a knife being like, I'm going to kill you? Yeah. I was like, oh,
I know. And then I kept thinking about like, what if, like for everyone else in the room looking at her erratic behavior, like, is she have like a mental illness? Yeah. Like, are we going to learn this is all in her head?
Man, that was so real when like they lock themselves in the room and Jobu like can't get in, or Jobu leaves or whatever. And then she's explaining to Waymond and Joy what the deal is. And she's like, no, you see, there's multiple universes and Joy is actually the Jobu Tabaki. And so I have to do this. And like, we jump to the thing and they're like, Mom, what are you talking about? And I was just like, this feels like, I've mentioned it on the podcast before, but like I have a brother who he's got bipolar, so he's like been manic and stuff, and like it just was a flashback to this where I was just like, like this could totally be just someone who's just losing it, like they are just in another reality right now, like not really, like just in their head, you know. It was man, that was rough.
That's good.
I have a hit pick. Wait, to go back to what you were saying about Joy though, were you confused about like who is the real Jobu? Like, does Jobu have access to all of these universes simultaneously? Or is it like there's one Jobu who is the Alpha Joy, and she can kind of take over all these other Joys?
I thought that's what it was. Yeah. Because if we're seeing what Evelyn does, it's more that Evelyn is still her, but she can reach into anything and everything.
Right. It seemed like there was one scene where they're back in the laundromat, and I think it's Evelyn. Maybe Evelyn hasn't achieved like full mind splintering yet, but she's trying to talk to Joy, and she's like, I know it's you or whatever. And Joy is acting like Joy for a second, but then she kind of like, her face changes, and then it's like, I'm actually Jobu. And I'm like, okay, are you just Jobu all the time? It seemed like she's just like hopping in though.
Well, to me, it read as Jobu is Jobu, but still has joy inside of her that still wants her mother's love.
Right.
Because
Jobu originates from a joy.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like it's a broken joy, and so there's still joy there.
Right. I love how they expand the lore, the universe, when Jobu first shows up in person, where she's like wearing a different outfit, and she's like causing effects. Like you realize that she actually has powers.
She makes the guy puke out the confetti. That was awesome.
Then his head explodes into confetti.
And then I love that like she spins the dude dancing, and he comes out in like the samba dress and the thing, and then she spins him in a way that blocks the bullets.
It's so cool.
It's so cool. Man, this movie's just full. You can see that they've been thinking about this movie for so long.
Yeah.
Like it's not in 2 years you write this movie. It's like your whole life you've been thinking about this movie.
But that sequence you're talking about, to me, is really in microcosm their movie or their music video roots, because in music video you don't have you have nothing but the visuals and and modern
no rules.
That too. Modern music videos are so colorful with amazing costumes and sets,
and they tell stories just visually,
and they have to have something to differentiate them.
Totally.
We have a couple more hit picks. Jenny Slate with a dog.
Oh my god.
Big nose.
When she throws the dog, and then that's when Evelyn first accesses the teppanyaki thing, and she like does the back bend and cuts the leash. The dog just fucking flies.
It was like, don't. She was just like beating up this dog. I felt bad for the fictional dog.
I didn't know whether or not to feel bad for the actor who gets cast as Big Nose. I'm like, on one hand, that schnoz got you this role.
Oh, it's Jenny Slate. I mean, she was on SNL. She's a comedic actor.
Yeah.
She knows it's like, I don't know. That's just her vibe.
All right.
And then the other hit pick is more of like a deeper, well, not thematic, but like a technical one where it's cutting between her fight with Deirdre and the universe where she's sitting in the van talking to Waymond about the divorce. And she gets like hit by Deirdre, and then she kind of like gets knocked into the other dimension. And Waymond is like, I'm not trying to hurt you, after she just got punched.
Yeah.
And he's like, think about it. Unless it's an emergency, whenever I try to talk to you, you always get pulled away.
Oh, yeah, and the hand.
And then Deirdre's hand comes out and pulls her back in.
So cool.
It's just like that kind of choreography. It's just
so
like,
brilliant.
That's Daniels, baby.
That was really Baby Driver-esque to me. That was almost a little too on the nose. I'm like,
Really?
okay.
I was just so thrilled, man. Like when you find they're trying to figure out what Deirdre's power is. They're like, is she sumo? Is she this? And then she's a pro wrestler, and she does the full backbreaker on Waymond. That shot is so good. Yeah. I have 2 hit picks. One is a fairly big one, and it's when we're in the sequence where Evelyn and Waymond are connecting, where she's kind of having her love fight with him, and it's cutting between a bunch of stuff. But the big one is they're in the Kung Fu verse where they're both kind of like celebrities, and like they're in their beautiful attire, and they make out or they kiss in the alleyway. When before she's had her breakthrough, she's huge in the frame. It's a close up on her, and it's kind of like loosey goosey on Waymond. But as he's talking, and he's talking about how he's chosen goodness and love, and he gives a speech about like, I would have been happy even if we just owned a laundromat.
Right.
They keep changing her frame when it cuts back to her, and she's getting smaller and smaller in the frame.
Oh.
And it's like this visual of like her power isn't important. It's like she's realizing that like what his love is power, and she has to like shrink down and then accept love, and then she gets big again.
Yeah.
And it's like just the brilliant fucking visual cue.
Oh, man.
Also want to shout out, this movie has a great amount of meta. Because it keeps in the Kung Fu verse, they're watching the movie.
Yeah.
But it never feels
great.
like cheesy or tacky or distracting. And like the fake out ending
Where the credits actually roll. That was awesome.
It was so good.
Yeah, Lauren was like, when like the credits were rolling, she was like, what? And then it came back and she's like, oh, it's not actually over. Okay.
Lauren.
Well, you know, she's not as present in the multiverse as I am.
Shout out.
All right, everybody.
Shout out to people grounded in reality.
Let's move on to our other segment we call fan service. That little jingle gets stuck in my head.
I know.
It does.
It's pretty
It's
epic.
Marvel, baby.
All right, this is an email we got from Tony Delaney. I believe someone else has raised this before, but Tony says, has anyone ever mentioned that Riley totally called Julia Louis-Dreyfus becoming, in quotes, some sort of government character in the MCU during the episode we did on Onward? Pixar's Onward.
Onward? Is she in Onward? Who's she in
Yeah,
Onward?
she's the mom.
And I called her being some sort of government
So what
character?
happens in that episode at like around 13 minutes in is we're talking about how so many voices in that movie are in the MCU. Like Chris Pratt is in it.
Oh.
Holland.
Sorry?
Tom Holland.
Tom Holland, yeah. So then we're like, oh, she's not an Avenger yet. And then you laugh and you're like, she'll never be an Avenger, but maybe they'll put her into some kind of like government character.
That's so funny.
And that's exactly what happened.
Wow. I guess I'm a genius.
She appears for the first time with the like mid-roll scene of Black Widow.
And I haven't seen Hawkeye, but I'd imagine she's involved in some way.
She's in Captain America versus the Falcon the Falcon and Winter Soldier.
We got there. The most hated series.
Yeah, she's like the bad Captain America's handler. Agent Orange. That's not his name.
Oh, whatever. It doesn't matter.
The agent.
I think
American agent.
Disney is so dynamic with how they respond to fan stuff that like I doubt he'll be in too much more. Because nobody really likes
Disney obviously listens to this podcast.
Oh,
hey, I
dude,
have a fan service.
Yeah.
It was on the Sonic episode from Typical Penguin as a comment. It says, do ambulance. And my answer is no.
I want to do ambulance.
No.
James wants to do ambulance, but I don't. It's going to be stupid. Michael
No.
Bay.
This is what I want, and I don't know if it's true. I want to do ambulance if the critics' consensus, like if I Google it right now and it's like everyone's saying it's an 8 or greater.
It's got a 68% on Rotten Tomatoes kind of thing.
What about IMDb though? Basically, what I want is I want it to be like Tony Scott's Unstoppable, where it's like a late career director who's just makes a super tight, like 90-minute movie that's just,
Ooh.
Michael Bay, he's known for the things Michael Bay is known for, and I just hope he like would be a more kind of restrained version of himself and just make a really tight film. And honestly, the only reason I'm even having this discussion is because I really like Jake Gyllenhaal.
Fair enough. It's on IMDb. It's 6.5.
I'm not gonna see it.
And I saw someone wanted to do the Adam project. And I would way rather do that than
if we're gonna do
decent.
a dumb, like probably enjoyable but kind of bad movie,
Yep.
I'd want to do the Adam Project.
Yep.
Not
Well,
ambulance.
it has the heart I crave.
Yeah.
The plot's like a throwaway thing. It's clearly about the family stuff.
Have you seen it?
Yeah, I watched it. It was good.
Oh, okay, I
It
was gonna
made me cry multiple times.
Really?
Not like this piece of shit.
I cried multiple times during this. I'm a crier for sure.
The Adam Project looked interesting to me.
So the plot of it, like the time travel stuff, is kind of dumb, but it serves the relationships and the emotional side of it, and
Right.
that stuff really works.
All
What's
right.
with his lightsaber? He's got a lightsaber.
Hey, no
It's-
spoilers.
it's just-
Next week though, we're doing Severance.
Ooh.
So
I'm stoked for that.
go binge it. I hope I don't forget it because I watched it a while ago. But anyways, you can email us just like Delaney did at hello@they'rejustmovies.com.
Wow.
And you can tweet at us, TJM Pod. That's it. You put an ad at the front of it though.
Classic
That's how they work.
Delaney.
That's how Twitter works, Elon.
Learn about it. Love you.